my dudes, dudettes, and doodles. This is This Week I'm Learning, the podcast where we bring you only the most interesting, at least us, learnings from the week. This is episode 98, recorded September 14th, 2022, and I'm your host, Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis, and also known as Captain's Bed, where I will start streaming 3D printing stuff again soon. Hopefully starting next week. Joining me today down below is Mr. Colton Roper, also known as Seeker4761. That's probably the amount of spools of plastic I will go through just this year alone. Next to him, we have Tim Rhind, also known as Fake Farang. And then above him and directly adjacent to me, we have Cody Stratman, also known as Psychonitrous. And how are all of you doing today?
Better now.
Yeah,
Good.
doing
Fair
good.
enough.
Technical difficulties on and everything else. Anyways, I'm gonna gripe the whole show.
If you notice that this week that Tim is seeming to almost glow, fear not. It's because he's burning in the light just for your audio pleasure.
Flying too close to the sun.
Mm-hmm. You're seeing me too good. I better put a blur on.
And for you video listeners out there, you'll notice that my surroundings are much less fun. I am house and dog sitting for my parents, so if I unexpectedly drop from the call, more than likely the internet has gone out for the 10th time today.
Oh.
It's great.
Well, it's probably a good thing you're not going to present this
fantastic.
week then.
Yeah. No, instead, everybody else is going to get to present. So, Colton, why don't you Cody, introduce some topics. Or Colton. Yeah,
Introduce my
Cody.
Cody.
Introduce Colton's topic.
Okay, so Colton is going to talk about how now that is quite cheesy.
Very
Cheesy.
cheesy.
Quite cheesy.
I have heard that in the last week.
Cheesy. Oh,
Cheesy.
yeah. But you know it isn't cheesy. Tim is going to regale us with more Timbits. The tiniest
Which are
and
actually
the most
appropriate
wonderful of
actually-
Timbits.
Actually, they really are a thing. Timbits are like a donut hole.
Yep.
From Tim Hortons.
Timbits.
Anyways, and Cody is going to breathe in with Moxie. I don't even know if I
Breathe
understand
in,
the
breathe
definition of
out.
Moxie. Right.
I had to Google
Style?
it. I actually
Style?
it's like energy, but also I think style is a
Okay.
good synonym too. Yeah.
Okay. Well, he's
Are you going to
breathing
be
with Moxie.
teaching? Are you going to be teaching the people your pterodactyl screech?
I definitely should do that. Yeah. Oh man, I thought the other night, and I did that. It's like, do you have a talent? And I'm like, well, I guess I've got this.
On an unrelated note, Cody will be moving back to the United States for no other reason because he wants to. Not because he is now a national enemy of Thailand. But who knows?
Because he misses eggnog.
Yeah.
Oh God, that. Oh my God.
Save it for the end. Save it for the end. That is a good after show.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's go.
So Colton, take us away.
I guess I will go first. So, you guys have heard of the oil reserves in the United States, and most countries actually have some form of oil reserve. And you've obviously heard of the Army reserves and stuff like that. There's actually plenty of reserves in the United States.
I know where you're going with this.
Kind of important, actually. But while you may have heard of the oil reserves or Army reserves, what about the cheese reserves in the United States? because it turns out that hundreds of feet underground in Springfield, Missouri, the U.S. government has a stockpile of barrels filled with dairy products. Cheese, actually. It's like each one is like 624 pounds of cheese. It's a drum of cheese. And this cave in Missouri is just the biggest single stockpile. The U.S. government actually has over 1.4 billion pounds of cheese just ready to flood the market if needed. But why the heck
Would
does
it
the...
be
Was this just to compensate the farmers for overproduction? That they
Possibly.
created this, or
Maybe, maybe not.
So-
Well, guess we'll find out, won't we?
I
But
have
yes,
to
Tim,
ask,
you were right.
Colton,
What?
I have to ask, is it all American cheese?
You're goddamn right. It's American cheese.
The worst flavor of cheese, the worst type of cheese.
Oh, yeah,
that-
American.
That's why I
Good
left
cheese there.
the U.S.
there's good cheese there.
Some good cheese.
Yes,
But-
Wisconsin cheddar.
Wisconsin cheddar. Notice how it does not have the word America in it. It's Wisconsin cheddar. Cheddar.
No, there's a lot of places that make some
And
good European style cheeses in the U.S. too.
yes, but not the.
But it's
thin
not
waxy-
American style cheese. Not
Yeah, yeah,
American cheese.
Oh,
Okay.
oh.
It's kind of
Sorry,
a
almost.
bland product. But why the heck does the U.S. stockpile so much cheese? Well, that story begins in 1949 with the Agricultural Act of 1949, which gave the CCC, which is the Commodity Credit Corporation, an important organization during the Great Depression. If y'all know your American history, sorry for you Canadians out there. It gave the CCC the ability to purchase dairy products as an attempt to stabilize commodity prices in the United States. So, Tim, you are spot on as to why this even exists at all. It was mostly as a way to help
Protectionism.
farmers. Exactly. During the 1970s, while oil prices were skyrocketing, Jesus, COVID brain, inflation in the dairy industry was happening. Something like 30 to 40% inflation over like 2 years, something stupid like that. So when the government intervened to help fix the inflation, it actually ended up crashing the dairy market. This is when the CCC decided to purchase dairy products that couldn't be sold by the farmers. Again, what Tim said. The U.S. government took all that extra milk and processed it into cheese, and the stockpile was actually initially created. It ballooned to over 500 million pounds, and the U.S. had no fucking idea with what to do with it. A USDA official at the time, it was like the 80s or something, basically said that the cheapest and most practical thing to do with all that goddamn cheese would be just to simply dump it in the ocean, which is obviously pretty wasteful. And another problem is that the cheese in general just doesn't last forever, even if it's stored in perfectly cool caves in Missouri.
Yeah.
So in a time after a major recession, which again the 70s during the oil skyrocketing and everything, huge recession, the government just gave it away, to millions of low-income and elderly Americans. Kind of go with what we were talking about. Taste. The cheese tasted something between like Velveeta and American. So arguably not really cheese into some people. Cheese product,
Cheese food.
honestly.
Oh,
Which is weird because it had a very pungent, cheesy flavor according to people back then. So it smelled like cheese, tasted very bland.
Give it to the pig farmers.
Yeah. It became known as government cheese, which is where that term actually comes from, which I didn't realize, and became associated with hard times. So in the end, some 300 million pounds of cheese was just given away to food banks and low-income housing. So, obviously, pretty good deal. I mean, it's not the best cheese in the world. People today will. I've actually talked to some people who used to eat that kind of stuff, and they said it kind of wasn't really very good to eat, obviously, but it was good in grilled cheese. It was good in mac and cheese. It could be made edible, and some people just like it. Apparently, it was super, super fucking salty, partly to keep it better for longer, and just because they just had to make it as quickly as possible. So the government actually got out of the cheese business in the 90s when dairy prices stabilized, but it turns out after the economic tumble and strife of the last 2 decades or so, and the average dairy consumption per capita of an American is down like 45% compared to the 70s. The U.S. is back in cheese, baby. but at least not government-wise. It turns out that the government stockpile of cheese is almost entirely owned by corporations such as Velveeta, Kraft, and all the cheese giants, cheese product makers.
So that's where mac and cheese comes from.
God, it could be.
And as a Canadian and going through the last free trade agreement, this kind of burns my britches.
What?
Because now you have these companies taking advantage of so-called maybe even free-ish cheese.
It is still subsidized by the U.S. government, so
yeah, and the whole thing is a huge subsidy.
Oh yeah,
and that's not the same playing field. Whereas in Canada, we have a control on how much people can produce.
Yeah, see, what's interesting about the United States is the dairy industry is way involved with the government. Huge lobbying.
Yeah.
Nowadays, Americans altogether consume like 12 billion pounds of cheese per year. So it is interesting that while individual consumption is down, production is not. In fact, production is higher than it's ever been. So the government is just footing that bill. All that, even though we have all this extra product, it's still being just paid for because that's the system we built. What's kind of interesting is campaigns like the Got Milk ad campaign is a direct result of trying to keep the dairy prices high. Partly so the government doesn't buy all the damn milk in the world, and partly to keep people from keep it for drinking. I know. I learned that. That was very fascinating. The government campaign.
High. I always thought milk was subsidized, so I thought milk was actually a lower price than what it should be.
It technically is subsidized. It's just consumption is down now, so they're trying to keep the prices relatively high. As weird as that is, by buying more, it's a weird problem. Honestly, the government shouldn't really be involved.
So they want to do artificial demand.
Exactly. That's exactly what they want to do.
That's interesting. That is weird.
It's just a weird little thing that the U.S. government is involved in.
Yeah, if you're a lobbyist for the corporation or you're one of the corporations producing milk, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yes. Like I said, these caves, there's I think 9 or 10 of them all over the United States. They keep it at a cool 34 degrees, pumping in cool air from above, and all refrigerated. 12 million square feet is what the the Missouri cave is. Like half of that is just for Velveeta. It's really quite impressive that as like a feat of government engineering, it's actually very impressive when you actually look at it. It's just weird that it's all just to store cheese, but so that's kind of what I learned about. Kind of interesting.
There's your zombie apocalypse plans right there. Cheese caves.
Gonna say, just hopefully the cheese lasts longer, but
the cheese. I mean, the Velveeta would last.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, considering that I think Kraft, is it cheese product? Like they legally cannot call what they sell cheese, like their little single
food. Yeah,
it's cheese. It is sliced cheese product. Yeah. It is not legally allowed to be called cheese.
I can't believe it's not cheese. Wait, I can.
It's fucking not. But that's what I learned about. But now,
I know where you found that.
Fucking YouTube, man. Amazing. It's
amazing. Yeah. I saw that video too a while back. I'm trying to remember where I saw it on. Is it Half as Interesting or something like that?
Not that one, but that is one that is a source of this. There's another one that randomly showed up. I'm like, ooh, cheese caves. Well, this might be interesting. Yeah. But what else is going to be interesting, I'm sure, is Tim is going to tell us about some Timmy Bits. Tiny little Timmy Bits, delicious little
my first one is, I'll do a little bit of a quiz for you guys. See who gets them right. The first top 3, the top 20 cities with the most millionaires in 2022.
In the world?
What is the first in the world? What is the first one?
Dubai.
Most millionaires or most millionaires per capita?
Is it number? Most millionaires. Most millionaires.
Okay.
Dubai was actually a good.
Maybe Singapore
was the next one I was going to
ask. I was going to say Singapore has got to be up there. Oh, because that would be the most per capita, not the most. I want to say like Shanghai.
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Hong Kong.
Nope.
What
Wow.
continent is it on? Is it Europe? Is it
We're,
United States?
we're, no, I can't give you that because
Oh,
I'm
so
talking
fun.
about the top three. There's more than one continent.
We
New
haven't even gotten
York.
any of the three?
New York is number one.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Although New York this year alone has lost 12% of its millionaires.
Support millionaires.
Okay.
In the
So 12%.
arms of
They've moved
an
to other
angel.
cities. Okay. I guess number two
Yeah,
is.
but for
I was
being a
surprised about
millionaire
this
in
one.
New York isn't really that much considering the cost of living in New York.
Yeah.
Like, I think being a millionaire in New York is equivalent to being 100,000 there in like rural Kansas. It's like the same cost of living when you extrapolate it out.
Well, we're talking about huge numbers. Here to quote this article, New York lost 12% of its millionaires in the first 6 months of this year, yet still had tens of thousands more millionaires than the second highest placed city.
Whoa.
So tens of thousands.
Second.
So
what is
so
second?
what do you think the second city is?
London.
LA.
Nope.
I know that the US has the most millionaires. I
Well, the
kind of want
U.S.
to go
has
back.
U.S. is also in the third city in the U.S. But this other one here, I was really surprised about. I won't carry this on too long. It get too boring for you guys.
Moscow.
Paris.
No. It's gonna be like
Tokyo.
a South of
Tokyo.
Tokyo.
Of course,
Tokyo.
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 Ah.
And the third is San Francisco. Singapore is actually the fifth. Number 4 is London. Okay.
It's actually impressive for Singapore when you think about it, considering it's has like what 100,000 people in its entirety.
Mm-hmm.
No,
yeah.
it's more than that.
I don't know. It's very small. Still very
yeah,
small.
it's small, but it actually has the highest number of millionaires per capita.
That would I believe.
Oh, does it? Okay.
If it's not first, it's up there. It's within the top 5 or 10. It's super high.
I'm trying to see in the article if it tells me where Houston was eighth. Actually, yeah, there's lots in Europe, but the Chinese cities are definitely rising fast. Yeah. Hong Kong is actually decreasing. I guess millionaires want to.
Oh yeah, because of 2019 and the law changes. I imagine that the numbers would be drastically different between then and now.
Right. My second tidbit is just I don't really have much to say. I'm not going to give you much details, but I was surprised to learn this. As you know, one of the people who died in the last week or so was, besides Queen Elizabeth II, was Brezhnev. And of course, he remember Brezhnev at all, or is it before your time? 1990s or 19 late
Russian?
I guess you guys it's before your time. Yeah, Brezhnev, the Russian, who brought in glasnost and perestroika.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Well, he actually won the Nobel Prize, and he was very much loved by the West. He was very anti-war. He brought in freedom of speech to Russia, which they've since lost. He and was trying to bring in real democracy to Russia. But the problem is he just brought in. I think history is going to say that his heart was in the best place, but he brought in things too fast because his replacement Yeltsin messed up the whole thing, and that, of course, brought us Putin and a rewriting of their constitution again, so that the president has all the authority. Yeltsin himself tried to, when they had that little bit of an uprising, he actually tried to ban their whole equivalent to their parliament. He just said, "You're all fired," and even though that wasn't in the constitution, and then they had a little bit of a semi-civil war that happened. Tanks even shot the parliament buildings, and and from then on, things went downhill for Russia. So Brezhnev was definitely before his time, and a lot of people of the older generation, even though he won the Nobel Prize and was loved by the West, people who loved the Soviet system because, I mean, the way one of the YouTube videos, and he explained it very well. sometimes people aren't ready for freedom and the responsibility it carries. You've got to do things yourself, whereas the old Soviet system, told you you're going to go to school or you're going to do this, you're going to do that. You get so much for food for this, and so on and so forth. So that if you want to be a sheep, it's not very stressful. Um, but freedom itself was stressful. And then with Yeltsin and Putin, all these big national companies were basically given to friends of the ruling people, and that's where you got all the oligarchs, and that's where you got the country being run by oligarchs and these politicians for life. So he did great things, but they didn't continue. And the transition period is always a really tough period when you're trying to change your economy over. And so that's why a lot of people who were of the Soviet era, even in some of the ex-Soviet countries, Georgia and so on, a lot of the senior generation still really despise Gorbachev. But that's one thing I learned, and I found that very interesting, how things happen over there, and how it ended up being the way it is now. So, and I just got one more gripe. This is about Linux. I so want to like Linux. I really do, and I've tried so many distros, and I think it's great, especially if you're in a poorer country because you've got good software like LibreOffice. It has gotten easier to install software, but I've tried so many different distros. I've been trying to install a piece of software called SDR++. My complaint about Linux is it has so many different ways of installing applications, and half the time it doesn't work. So you've really got to learn. It just twists your brain because the knowledge that's on the internet in blogs or procedures could be a few distros behind, and these things don't work anymore. So you just can't seem to install anything, and the community itself is not very helpful, and they don't know. Like, for example, I'm trying to install SDR++, and the installer says it doesn't have this library, version 2 of this library. So I look on my computer. Well, my computer comes with version 3, but the software won't work with version 3, and you can't go back to version 2. If you do, you're going to break 100 other things. So that's just one little example. Every time you try to install a software, if it's not one of the main packages out there available in one of those automated libraries, which don't always work either, then you have to do it by command line, which is fine. But you start installing and it says error. So then you look at those errors and you install those files. Then you go again, error. Then you install those files. So 5 or 6 times, if you're lucky, you might get to a point where you can actually run the software. You might. Yep. So that's been my experience with Linux this week, or not this last month, I should say. And I'm about ready to give up on it. I wanted to run my SDR software and on an older laptop that wasn't even running Windows 10 with all the new updates very well. So that was my hope, but I'm about ready to give up on that. So you guys ever play around with it?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I just think for the scientific community, or if you got somebody who's really good at it, yeah, then it's pretty solid. But anyways, what were you saying?
So I just had to rebuild our Nextcloud instance because I had it on a virtualized Ubuntu platform that was virtualized inside of Windows with a dynamic disk. So Ubuntu thought it was getting all of, the 30 terabytes that I allocated to it. But for some reason, it wasn't transferring that onto the Nextcloud. And through basically making the disk fixed size, because I thought maybe it was actually not reporting right or something. I found out that apparently because I'm using the Snap installer, which is supposed to make it more automated, it's basically like a Docker container, but specifically for Ubuntu. And it seems like there's some sort of hard cap on the size of the Snap. So even our current Nextcloud installation seems to be limited to 75 gigabytes. And it's driving me nuts because I have the space, I have everything allocated. So what it looks like I'm going to have to do is actually go through and do this the hard way and manually install Nextcloud on Ubuntu in this VM, which is a lot heavier process. And I'm not very happy about it.
I mean, yep.
And I could pay a company and have a Docker image created that
defeats
has
the spirit. It defeats the spirit of Linux.
Yep.
Which ironically
Well,
is what's going to happen if Linux ever wants to become a real competitor to the other big boys. Is some big company, Valve, ironically, has supported Linux with their Steam OS, which is actually apparently really good for gaming. One of my friends got one of those Steam decks recently, and I want one in my hands right now because it's actually incredible, better than I thought. But
I'm
as
looking forward to playing with it.
As Tim said, the communities of Linux, it seems to be either they're really helpful. Unfortunately, there's a lot more people who are assholes about it, who are like weirdly elitist about their buggy, crappy, yeah. And you're like, until the grandma who has basically barely understands what a Tim left. Well,
we lost Tim.
We'll just keep talking about it. He'll come back. Wow, he really didn't like. He was doing this on Linux, so Linux, I think he's done with Linux now. We're talking
too much.
Linux is like, I'll take you down one at a time. But that's going to be the problem with Linux, and that's why it's never going to become a thing. Is because there's too much choice. There's too much.
That's why our versions of Linux are going to be mobile. Because a company has taken it and gone, we're going to make this easy, but we're going to make it a walled garden.
We're going to take all your freedoms and throw them away.
Which, again, is against the spirit of Linux. And I like Kali Linux for penetration testing. Amazing. I've been playing with that recently for my job. Oh, my God. I feel like I can hack the world. Not going to. White hat. But the option, it's amazing how much power you have for recovering data with Linux, even on Windows machines. It's super fucking cool.
Oh, yeah.
Highly niche, though.
Yep.
Which is powerful, but...
And that's the cool thing about Linux, is there's something for everyone. So if, you can go to your walled garden if you want, because that was available through the power of Linux, Unix, whereas you can go down the road of frustration, but having everything that you want too.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually cool. I mean, as much as it's problematic, it's also really cool.
For the technical people, Linux is amazing. It's so cool what you can do with it. It's a tinker. It's a hobby OS.
But
really,
also,
in some ways.
You interact with Linux so often, and you don't realize it. When you go to a hotel and maybe they have hotel signage, when there's so many lightweight things that run on Linux around the world that you just don't even realize.
Most servers, like production servers, like at the Facebook level or something like that, are Linux based. Just because it's a good operating system in terms of its overhead.
Yep.
And again, can be customized to your exact needs. Sorry,
don't need
Brandon.
over here. Go back over there.
Tim, get out of there. Oh, it's not Tim.
No. Dang dog. She's like, oh, there's an opening. There's just enough. I could squeeze in.
Honestly, that could be a topic, is Linux one day. Maybe we'll add that to the list. Like open source software. Open source software. There you go.
To be honest,
Loss.
I haven't played around with Linux since I worked at Internet Colorado. So I need to get back on. And I guess I will be using more Linux because I'll have the Steam Deck here in 6 days.
Oh my god, it's so fucking cool.
I will say, if you are looking for an easy distro that is like Windows, specifically kind of like Windows XP and Windows 7, Mint.
Mint is good.
I really enjoy Mint, but there's not a lot of, like, if you're trying to do kind of things above and beyond what you would do with like a Chromebook or something like that, it starts getting a little more difficult because there's not a huge nerd adoption of Mint, because it is kind of viewed as the easy distro. Ubuntu has a ton of support, a ton of followers. So
but it also has a lot of baggage. It's also, it looks like Windows and Mac OS had a baby, so people are weird about that because people are weird. It's just, you're not paying for it. Just pick when you
everybody has their people have their preferences.
Just don't be like, it's weird. Like, if people are gonna be weird about it, like the console wars back in the day. Like, the only reason people liked Xbox or PlayStation over the other is probably because that's the only one they had. So they had to go to bat for it. But Linux is free. Like,
one of the games that it had.
Or one of the games, exactly. Like, like who cares? Just, if you want Linux to get popular, support it. Be helpful. Be like, hey, that's kind of a pain in the ass. Let me show you how to do that. Don't be like, well, you shouldn't be using that distro because it's garbage. Well, maybe it is, but not everyone has the time or the patience.
Look at Linus's experience with it. Like, he's a fairly technical person. So is Luc Lafayette. But they both were having issues with their Linux distros. And both of them were getting, like, alternating, like, really good helpful feedback and like, oh bro, you should have totally used this distro instead, or oh, you should have done this instead, even from their own forums that they run.
Doesn't matter, I'm not going to reformat everything because I'm working or I just want to play games, or it's it's why Apple is popular, because it just fucking works. As Brandon said last week, the ecosystem is incredible. Like,
it is really
join
well
the cult.
tied together.
And also, this would be probably a
damn it, Brandon.
I know. Now Mariah's like, so when are you going to join me with a MacBook? And it's like, no. Never.
That's too far. That's too far.
Why?
This far, no farther.
Yeah, until you get one, you're like, oh my god, I can literally do everything on all 9 devices I have, and it's all synced together. And you're like, well, something I've noticed is I'm getting. Go ahead. Sorry.
I did use a Mac for a while for work at Internet Colorado, and there were some things that were nice, but mostly I hated that experience.
Something I've realized now that I'm back in the tech business world is I don't want to fix my own shit anymore like I used to. I just want it to fucking work. So I understand why people are into Apple sometimes. I do. Like, I don't want to take my work home with me. I just want to do what I want to do and not have a problem.
Yup.
But who knows? But unfortunately, because Tim left us, who's going to introduce Cody's topic?
Actually, I wanted to, before we switch topics, so I would say another resource for Linux stuff would be Level 1 Techs.
Oh yeah.
He's one of the good ones.
Tech support.
Wendell's one of the good ones.
Basically he is Linus to Linus. As Linus is to the general population, Wendell is to Linus.
He is Linus squared.
Yeah. So
check it out. We fully endorse
yeah.
level 1 techs here
Yes, we love
here at
level
whatever
1
thing we're
techs.
doing right now, because I'm drawing a blank. This week I'm learning in the Tech Pirate.
I fall asleep routinely to the sweet sound of Wendell's voice.
Hell yeah.
Osmosis, all of that information just directly in.
But what isn't going to make us fall asleep, I hope, Cody, no pressure, but tell us about breathing.
With Moxie.
With fucking Moxie, baby.
Speaking of level 1 text, that's where I go to try and get topics when I have no idea, when it's like 3 hours before the podcast and I'm like, give me something. I don't know, because otherwise I'm going to talk about flooding in Bangkok and so what this is actually, this is the seventh time Perseverance has created oxygen on Mars using this add-in called Moxie, which
I did not know about this at all.
stands for, yeah, I didn't either, stands for Mars Oxygen In Situ Resource Utilization Experiment, or Moxie. So basically, what they're doing is they're transforming carbon dioxide, which is about 96% of the atmosphere on Mars, into oxygen. However, as it's doing that, it gives you about 6 grams of oxygen, which is about 10 minutes worth of oxygen each time that it's done it. What they're saying is that they're going to try and scale this up about 100 times. That way they can produce oxygen for humans living on Mars, but also, importantly, producing liquid oxygen fuel as well for the rockets in order to escape Mars. Because people aren't particularly sold on a one-way trip to Mars, but if you say it's a round trip, wow, that sounds really weird, then people are more likely to actually participate in that. I mean, there's some crazy people around, but not a lot of them. Anyway, small topic for today, but it's the 7th time it's done that. It started doing it in February 2021. So only the last year and a half, really.
How long does it take to make that oxygen? Out of curiosity, is there a time like?
I'm not.
I mean, it's
sure.
Unbelievable. It may as well be magic. It's fucking alchemy, making stuff out of thin air.
It's got
literally making air out of air.
So
but...
it actually has to, in order to make the oxygen, it actually has to basically heat this thing up to 700 degrees. Let me see where it was. 1,470 degrees Fahrenheit or 800 degrees Celsius. So they use 3D printed nickel alloy parts, and aerogel. Yep, 3D printing. It's everything now. With a thin gold coating in order to reflect infrared heat. So you're not actually damaging other parts of the rover.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's still cool. I mean, really, first you have to start out small, then you'll be able to scale things up and actually soon TM have breathable oxygen on Mars. I mean, the other part of that is scrubbing the carbon dioxide too. That actually, a lot of people would argue that the most important part of having a good atmosphere to live in, like the more worrisome part, is actually getting rid of the waste product rather than dealing with oxygen. But
I mean, hell, we're dealing with it on our own planet, so yeah.
Yeah, this is, I mean, half the battle. So, just something I learned this morning, which is really cool. The other things, I guess I'll go on Cody bits. The other thing I learned is how to walk in a flood in Bangkok, and that umbrellas, I still find them not really that useful. I've used them now 2 times in my life, and yeah, the first time it was pretty useful. The second time it was rather pointless. So yeah, that's all I have for today.
Fucking
folks.
big umbrella lying to us saying
I love
don't
my
get
little
it.
umbrella.
little
My
parasol.
legs still get wet, but I really don't care.
Yeah, that's the thing. Your legs still get wet. Like what's the point?
I wear fucking shorts and sandals everywhere anyway, so what does it matter if my legs get a little wet?
Fair enough.
As
Keep
long
your
as
hair
the
looking
part
good.
that is covered in cloth doesn't get wet,
Exactly.
I
That's the way to
won't
do
get
it.
cold.
I agree with that entirely.
No. By the end of the evening, I was like, for some reason, even my shirt was wet, and I don't know how that happened. But like each road was a river here for a little bit. But then it's like 4 hours later, and it's all dry again. I don't know how that works either. So yeah,
Fucking
it floods.
magnets, I'm sure.
Okay.
As an aside, the new Bangkok governor, when he first got in, he discovered that the department in charge of cleaning the canals, dredging the canals, has given a budget to do like, and for unknown reasons, they probably only did each of the last couple of years, or something similar to that. I don't want to do false, but let me just say that let me clarify. He found out that they didn't even perform up to 50% of what they're mandated to do. So they don't know. So I think that's all these things lead to the flooding.
Yeah, and actually they were. So there was a news article. Sorry, this is turned from oxygen into dihydrogen oxide, or water.
Dangerous stuff.
Indeed. Everybody who
man.
drinks it dies. But they found out that I saw this new news article that it was like, please stop dumping household items into clongs because everything's getting clogged up.
Yes.
They like had a picture of like
The hell's a
somebody's
clong?
like couch. A clong is a canal. It's the Thai word for canal.
Thank you.
Sorry, there's like words that are used even in English here that I forget are naturally Thai words, like soy and clong. But now chat art, like that guy is really well respected. Like he's really well loved. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
he's got an uphill battle. It's just like the Brezhnevs type of story. It's hard to change status quo, but and if you guys can edit out the specific number I gave, I'd appreciate that. Because they have laws here called fake news, and if you aren't accurate enough, I don't want to test the system.
Fair enough.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, sorry about that. I don't know. I never had a problem with Discord before. The Discord, like it stayed open. It went blank.
Yeah. It's okay.
We're fine.
We're past it.
We're still recording. Cool.
Can I just give you another piece of info before you continue?
Do it.
Yeah.
One YouTube video that I watched and enjoyed last night, I was actually kind of nervous about because I'm a fan of Linux tech tips. And he's got his screwdriver that he's finally selling. And this website, and it's a very good website. The guy's does different types of testing on. He has his own sort of setup of he just tests products, and he tests them against each other, and he dispels myths and all that. But he tested the Linux Tech Tips screwdriver against about 10 other screwdrivers, and it actually came up very, very well.
What the heck is
Linux
it?
Tech Tips or Linus Tech Tips?
Linus, sorry, Linus Tech Tips. Oh my god.
I just wanted to make sure.
Linus Tech Tips. Yes. All right. Yeah, he tested his brand new screwdriver, and I was like, "Oh my god! Don't tell me it's going to be not going to do well in the test." But it actually did really well.
It's actually very interesting. Yeah. My YouTube recommended fucking videos, like half of them are like, is the Linus Tech Tips screwdriver really as good as he says, or it's shit, or oh, it's actually pretty good, but here's why. I'm just like, Jesus, guys, it's a good screwdriver from what I've heard.
As
Better be for that much.
It's top 1 or 2 really in the testing. The one that was top was actually double the cost, but it wasn't
and
top
didn't
in all
have
categories.
built-in storage.
It wasn't top in all categories. Yeah. Oh, you saw that video then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Demolition Ranch, I think.
The guy with the real squeaky voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he did his scoring really weird.
So I had a screwdriver back at my old job that I ordered. Everybody gave me a bunch of crap for ordering the screwdriver. Luckily, the boss was on my side because we didn't have any mechanical ratcheting screwdrivers there because my other coworkers didn't like them for some reason. I was just like, what the? Yeah. They only liked the old school. Or they still had bit storage, but they weren't ratcheting. So they were still. It wasn't the fact that it was like magnetic. It was the fact that they just didn't like the ratcheting mechanism. And I did a bunch of research and I ordered. So there are 2 that are basically the same. It's Harbor Freight and like Master Mechanic or something. And I ordered, I think the Master Mechanic one, and the ratcheting mechanism on it is like. It's super fine ratcheting, and it was the best screwdriver I had ever used. And Linus's looks like he took a lot of inspiration from that one, and just fantastic. So a bunch of people are like, it's a screwdriver, but honestly,
if it's
something you're going to use it a lot,
it may as well be something that works and something you like.
Yeah.
I recently purchased
having the right tool.
Oh yeah, right tool for the job. Like, it will save you so much time in the long run. But I recently purchased an iFixit kit after years of the internet telling me and how great it is, and it's fucking amazing. Don't know why I ever waited. They're fucking amazing. They're perfect for what I need.
Oh yeah, we used to have them at my old job. Yeah.
Fucking yeah. Get the right tools, people. Don't be cheap. Don't go Snap-on. Or go Snap-on. I can't remember if Snap-on is good or bad. I don't know anymore.
Snap-on didn't do very good in the tests.
Fuck Snap-on. Don't go Snap-on.
Yeah.
Okay. I always heard Snap-on was supposed to be good auto parts, but
good wrenches and stuff. Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh.
Wrench is wrench.
Matco. If you can get Matco, if you can afford Matco tools.
Wait, no one's gonna endorse Craftsman here?
Okay, Craftsman.
I've never had a trouble with them.
From my grandfather's era, Craftsman. Those.
I have a like $20 freaking toolkit that my parents got me from Walmart for like my 12th birthday still, and I've never had any trouble with it. Like, I'm not a professional mechanic or anything, but I'm just like, works for me. Works for me.
I bought a $75. Now it was like 25. It was 25% of the normal price from Sears back in Gunnison on a Black Friday. Actually, going in there at like 4:00 in the morning, and those Craftsman tools actually were really nice to have, especially when I did some fixing and tinkering on my truck and a few other things. Like, I gotta say, actually, I really enjoyed having that up until very recently. Now that's at my mom's place, but having the correct tool saves so much time.
Where I do care about like the different types of tools is like power tools, because there's a measurable difference between certain power tools.
Yeah. DeWalt, best power for the money.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of money.
Yeah,
still a lot of money.
Now, Ryobi I like too.
Ryobi's not quite as good as DeWalt, but the thing is, and I talked to a guy who did maintenance at the borough, and he said, DeWalt's better, but when you drop a DeWalt from the top of the ladder and it breaks, it's a lot more painful on you than when you drop a Ryobi from the top of the ladder and it breaks. And it's 80% of the quality of the DeWalt at a third of the price, or even fifth of the price.
It also, if you're going off of drills, like for some weird reason, the TikTok algorithm has shown me a lot of like side by side drill comparisons for like drivers and stuff, and for some reason I fucking love them. So that's probably why they keep showing up. But it's very interesting to see, again, two drivers that are the same class, and even though one is only maybe a second faster, if you add that over 1,000 screws, that shit starts to add up. So you also
if you're building a house, that's
if you're a carpenter, you probably want that extra 5% price performance thing because it adds up because your time is money. But if you're like me, Ryobi would be perfectly fine, even though because I'm not gonna build a house. I could try, but I would be homeless pretty quickly or dead under my pile of rubble house.
You're going to use it for a half an hour once every 6 months.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But DeWalt,
always think about like how long you're going to use the thing, and is it the price good over time? Buying $1,000 chair might be worth it because if you're sitting in it every day for 8 hours a day, the cost per time that you get out of that is a really good deal versus a $200 plate where you might use that plate if special guests come over or whatever. Anyway, we're getting way off topic.
Consumer Reports is our new
podcast.
That's us.
Take us somewhere. I don't know if we're going home or where we're going, but take us.
You can't
take
stay
me home,
here.
Country road.
See, I was going take me home tonight, but
I was going with that. Take me home tonight. Not gonna let you go.
He's in Colorado, though.
Yep.
Rocky Mountain High.
Wait, what?
What? Brah. Who's gonna do their pluggables first, brah?
Cody, where can we find you?
Hello, boys and girls. I am Cody Stratman. You can find me on the internets as Striving to Fail. You can also find me as Roaming Geek and Zito Valder. I forget which one is which, but one of those is the Instagram, which is
Zito Valder,
where I am the most. Okay, thank you. Other people know where I am because I don't look at my name that much. I think it actually is. Yeah. I think the other one is my Reddit handle and my Flyer Talk handle. Anyway, that's where you can find me. God, I haven't been on flights in a while. So yeah, go there. Bask in pictures. I don't know. Anyway, Tim, describe yourself.
I'm very inactive on my social media. Facebook page, YouTube channel with videos that are aging, and it's Our Thai Journey, one word, and that is it. Colton.
My name is Colton Roper. I go by Seeker4761 on all the socials. I stream pretty regularly at twitch.tv/Seeker4761. Shit, what did I even stream this week? I don't even remember. But it was a good one. Whatever it was. It was Fallout 76. Fallout 76. That fucking game is actually not the worst thing I've ever played in the world. It's up there, but it's not the worst. I'm also a contributor to the techpirate.net, and you know who else is a contributor, or at least owns the website? Brandon, what about you?
Yeah. Well, I am Brandon Vader, also known as Captain Dracanis, also known as Captain's Bed. You can find me on the Tech Pirate, where I need to, again, get better about posting stuff up. But you can find me on the Instagram as Captain Dracanis. You'll see lots of 3D printing and fun stuff there. I actually just posted up a fix that I did to my Anycubic Chiron. Apparently part of my issue was hot end related also, so I just replaced the hot end and also did a nozzle swap. And
Fuck yeah.
Hot end in Captain's Bed.
Yeah.
Swapping out nozzles. Yeah, you are, baby.
Oh yeah. I went bigger because bigger is better.
After TWIL.
And with that,
yeah.
Too casual.
Casual. Thanks for joining us on this episode of This Week I'm Learning. You can find us wherever you listen to your podcasts, as well as on YouTube at This Week I'm Learning. For you social media peeps out there, you can find us on Twitter at ThisTWIL. If you'd like to contact us, you can of course send an email to twill@thetechpirate.net, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Like what, 2 nights ago? Yeah, 2 nights ago. I was out with a friend that I met from the Bangkok podcast meetup, which was the original event that I went to, where, man, they chose like the worst night to have that meetup, because really Soy 22 was a river. But yeah, all the people are cool. Tim, if you ever have the chance to go to one of the Bangkok podcast meetups, I highly recommend it.
I've been to one. I've been to one.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Yeah. They said that they're gonna have another one pretty soon, because apparently they only put the information out on Facebook. Anyway, that's what we do on this podcast. We talk about another podcast. So I was out with this guy who is he's ethnically Chinese, Australian, and has lived a lot of his life in Thailand, like 40 years of experience in Thailand. Anyway, so I was out with him and 2 of his other friends. So a guy from Korea and another guy from Japan, and Japanese guy's girlfriend and 2 of their friends. And we're out at this like swanky bar, and I don't know how this conversation got there, but I was like, oh, maybe this is like eggnog. And like nobody at the table knew what eggnog was. So I'm like, okay, I got to figure out how to describe eggnog, which surprised me because not even the Australian knew. I'm like, okay, how to describe eggnog? So I'm like, I'm having trouble, and I was like, it's like milky, thick, like drink, and I realized like this description was, not endearing anybody to like think eggnog would be worth trying.
You know how sweet an egg is when you like eat an egg raw? You know how sweet they are? Wait, what?
Yeah, it's kind of like got the consistency of mucus, kind of. Anyway, so I posted like this on Facebook. This like, how do you describe eggnog to somebody who has no experience with eggnog? And then I said like, do you milky, sweet, delicious drink? And then most of the people that responded, even like some of my Thai friends, liked it and gave suggestions on how to say it. But this one lady that I lived, actually her dad was my neighbor in Alaska. She posts back that like I have a huge sense of entitlement.
Oh, I know. I couldn't believe it.
I was like, wait, because it's like maybe I'm misunderstanding. So I posted back like, I'm not sure what you mean. I was just trying to describe eggnog to people who I was, out drinking with. And she posted back like, not everywhere in the country has access to fresh milk, eggs, and sugar. And then I was like, I forget the post, but then I posted a really, it gets better than even what you guys saw. Yeah. So anyway, she posted this huge long, or no, I posted this huge long thing in response to that. Like, no, I'm not. And they have access. Like, I wasn't trying to describe eggnog to like people on the street going, you will never know what eggnog is. Like, oh, you pathetic you pathetic street person or whatever. Like, I was out with a bunch of people that were more well-traveled than I was. Like, if anyone, I was the pathetic person at this meetup. Like, I was the underprivileged one at this meetup that I was at. Anyway, so, and then a few people, maybe, so a few people posted too, kind of on my side. But I get this message later, and so Facebook says somebody is trying to message you. I'm like, what do you mean trying to message me? Well, that's what happens when somebody blocks you, but they sent you a message. And it was basically like, oh god, I actually have to look it up now. Let me find it. Oh, it's really hard to get to. I always forget like how to get to that type of Facebook chat. Oh, message requests. Okay. Yeah, I can't do it anymore. There's a reason you went there. What you said here is disturbing and has been reported. What? Like, now I'm just really confused.
You drunk?
I don't know.